रमजान पाकिस्तान, रमजान पाकिस्तान।
Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajim, Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim, Assalamu-alaikum, Jiayanu, Bukhair Ragale, Ni Hao, Chunushumme, Washmale, Ohio Gozaimus, Guten Morgen, Ola, Bonjour, Privyet, Kaifa Hal, Hale Shuma Chatore, Ahlan Wasalan, Marhaba, Buna, Mucho, Gracias, Swabio, Bali, Keraya, Hosh Galden, and thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning into PTV World. You are definitely watching Ramzan Pakistan special transmission with me. I happen to be Shahzad Hasan Khan, and with me, I happen to have the very learned Miss Hajra Sati. Hello Hajra, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you doing today?
Walaikum assalam. Thank you so much. I'm doing great. How are you?
I think so far so good, alhamdulillah, because we've had a working weekend, alhamdulillah,
Right.
and I think I feel great about it that we've been working day in, day
Right.
out to make sure that for all of those our viewers who are out there who expect quite a lot from us, that we continue to deliver and that too with par excellence.
Right.
What about you?
That, of course, we had a working weekend and we were working, and of course it feels good to be working, but obviously you need some rest, but after that, you again to work, and it's a routine now.
And this is something which I actually wanted to ask you as well, because half of the time what happens was, what used to happen with me was that, when I actually had a lot of work for the next 5 days or 10 days, so I kind of used to overthink about it and whether
Right.
I'll be able to do it or not. And then there was this motivational speaker I was listening to, and you know what he
Right.
said? He was like, whenever you have a lot of work, please make sure that you just do not react to it.
Right.
And I think that kind of gave me a resolve which I wanted in my life, because otherwise I'd be like, on this day I have to wake up at this time, on this day I
Right.
actually have to go back home at this time. So the entire routine, when it jumbles up, ladies and gentlemen, I know
Right.
that it's a chaos in your mind. And just to kind of have a resolve, please make sure that you just do not react to whatever amount of work you have in front of you. Please make sure that in fact you dedicate yourself
Right.
and you do it with 100% commitment. And I've seen Hajra doing so as well, wonderfully well, alhamdulillah.
Thank
So I
you so
really
much.
need to kind of congratulate myself for
Thank
making the right choice for the show as well. Well, how do you feel about it?
I think it's going great, and obviously communication is always a two-way process. So is learning, it's always two-way process, and I think we have been able to transform ourselves,
Alhamdulillah.
evolve our personalities according to that. And Shahzad, as you were talking about, how, we are fretting about it if we have, work, and especially in the early mornings where we have to come. So what happened was, when I was doing the news, I always used to fret, what if my alarm doesn't ring, and I, kept oversleeping and stuff like that, and I missed my news, and I used to have these horrible dreams also in that sense. But
Good,
then,
I used to get
someone told me, okay, just tell yourself that you're going to make it, because it never happened that I skipped news.
Yeah.
So tell yourself, your brain, that, you're going to do that, and then, get a rest, because I wasn't resting enough, and, of course, that somehow creeps
The
into your
stress is
personality. Yes, creeps into your personality, and it somehow affects your performance also, So someone
Exactly.
told you that don't fret, just tell yourself it's okay, it's going to be fine, and going to make it, and then it happens.
Exactly, and thank you very much for reminding me something very interesting, because, ladies and gentlemen, we were actually recording our shows, and that too somewhat around 5 a.m. in the morning.
Right.
And so my mother actually usually wakes me up as well, most
Right.
of the time. So
Okay.
what happened was, my mother was actually visiting my younger brother. So I
Okay.
put up my alarm for 4 o'clock.
Right.
And it started to ring at 4 o'clock, but I woke up at 4:30 in the morning, and I was like, and I was all stressed. I was like, whether I'm going to make it on time or not. But alhamdulillah, I was able to do so as well. So thank you very much, Allah Mia, first of all, giving us the opportunity to do what we wanted to do in our lives, and then
Right.
making sure that, we come out so respectable, because, ladies and gentlemen, respect, I think, is from Allah Almighty. And whenever Allah gives respect to somebody over here on this worldly planet, please make sure that you respect that gentleman as well. But very
Right.
quickly, today it happens to be a very important day, ladies and gentlemen. The world is observing World Malaria Day today as well.
Right.
There are a lot of facts and figures which we really need to share with you. And it's because of the fact that we're observing World Malaria Day, ladies and gentlemen, it is to raise awareness about malaria and generate support for the fight against the preventable and treatable disease.
And the theme for this World Malaria Day is Harness Innovation to Reduce Malaria Disease Burden and Save Lives.
And with the theme, World Health Organization seeks investments in innovation to deliver innovative vector control strategies, diagnostics, anti-malarial drugs, and other instruments to accelerate the work to fight malaria.
It's also a life-threatening disease, Shahzad, and which is caused by the parasites that are transmitted to people through the bites of infected mosquitoes. About half of the world's population is at the risk of malaria, particularly those in lower-income countries.
And this is something which I certainly do not get, and we have had the conversation about this as well, whether how malaria exists in the lower income segments of the society as well.
Right.
But in addition to what you just shared, the World Health Assembly instituted World Malaria Day in May 2007. The purpose of the event is to give countries in affected regions the chance to learn from each other's experiences and support one another's efforts.
I think that's a wonderful initiative, and especially when it comes to the countries, maybe third world countries who already have the structure in place, where they can teach you some lessons, especially when it comes to Pakistan. We already have structures in place, especially in terms of healthcare, so we can share our experience, and I think we received the global acclamation for that.
Exactly,
as
we
well.
did. And to be very honest, the now Prime Minister, Alhamdulillah, Mr. Shahbaz Sharif Saab, ladies and gentlemen, was the then Chief Minister of Punjab as well, and he really did curb this menace, under his supervision, and he's been really efficient, and we've all seen, how hardworking he is. But other than that, ladies and gentlemen, obviously, since we didn't had our transmission on the previous Saturday, which happened to be was the 21st of Ramazan. But ladies and gentlemen, it was and it will always be a very important day for all of us Muslims as well, because that's the Shahadat anniversary for Hazrat Ali alayhi salam as well. And we certainly want to speak about it, and we certainly want to share it with our viewers, because he's actually referred to as Bab Ilm as well.
Right.
So ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, to speak about it, we're very lucky that we've been joined by one of our favorite religious scholars, Mr. Imran Sandhu Saab. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. How are you, brother?
Absolutely perfect, sir, and thank you very much for joining us. And it's wonderful to know that you refer to me as a brother, and I would refer back as a brother as well. Bade bhaiya, kaise hain aap? Theek hai?
Allah ka shukar hai. Brother and sister.
Brother and sister, wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, alongside him, we're very lucky that we have been joined by Anath Khoy as well, and he happens to be Mr. Hafiz Kashif Awan Saab. Hello, sir. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Jazakallah, bahut bahut shukriya aane ke liye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. But first things first, so Sandhu Saab, obviously, we were talking about Maula Ali, Hazrat Ali alayhi salam as well. So we certainly want you to kind of take us back in history and what actually happened, and why do you think it is so important for us to kind of know and observe the day when it was his shahada?
Nahmaduhu wa nusalli wa nusallimu ala rasulihil kareem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Actually, it was fitna of Khawarij that actually led to this event, this sad event of his shahada. But the thing we should understand is that Hazrat Ali radiyallahu ta'ala an, when he became Amirul Mu'mineen, Khalifatul Muslimin, he actually was so hakeem, he was so wise that he was able to control all the fitna that was going on in Medina. And another wisdom that led to control of the fitna was that in that time of fitna he moved the capital from Medina to Iraq. The reason was he did not want the fitna to come into Medina and Makkah, the two holy places. So he was the first one who decided, given the environment of that time, he moved the capital so that everything goes on out there. And till today, the reason why there's so much peace over there in Medina and Makkah, and till today nobody has actually reversed this decision to make Medina the capital, the political capital of Muslims. So it was his wise decision, and the reason he made these wise decisions was that that these two cities of these two holy places become there's no political kind of activity going on over there, so that the fitna goes away. And it was his wisdom, far-sighted wisdom, that after the shahada of his predecessor, Hazrat Usman radiyallahu ta'ala an, he decided to move away the capital. Similarly, he was there in his he was giving a khutbah that, and he actually predicted this. He made a prediction, and it was because he was Babul Ilm. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that I am the city of ilm, and Ali is his door. So anybody who wants to attain knowledge, gain knowledge, understand wisdom, he has to come through Ali radiyallahu ta'ala an. So he actually predicted that very soon you will see my beard getting wet or with blood, the red blood. It will be colored red, meaning by somebody is going to hit me on my head, and the blood is going to come on my beard. So the people over there got emotional and asked, "Tell us the name of that person. We are going to abolish his family." He said, "Do not kill anyone other than who does this. If I die." There was a faqahat, there is a full jurisprudence in this statement of his. He said that I don't want fitna in the ummah. If somebody kills, it has nothing to do with his family, nothing to do with his tribe. Do not take revenge from his tribe. Only take qisas from him.
And then it was Hazrat Imam Hassan or Hussain who actually went on to kill the murderer as well, right?
Yeah, but history has different accounts for that. Without going into the details of that account, it was a sad incident. But the point is, look at the wisdom of the brother of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the nafs of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that even though he knew that he would be assassinated, he did not want the Muslims to fight. And his whole life, his whole tenure of Khilafah, it was full of the decisions that avoided fitna. He got into an agreement with Amir of Sham. He got into agreement with Hazrat Aisha. He got into agreement with. He tried to do agreement with Khawarij. People asked him, "Who are Khawarij? Are they kuffar?" He said, "No, they are not kuffar." He said, "Because they say kalima, la ilaha illallah, they believe in it." He said, "Then are they fusaq?" He said, "No, they are not fusaq even. They are baghis," meaning they are tyrants. So, but he actually to the last possible option, he did not want the fight between Muslims. But when that thing happened, they went out of control. He had to go and set them right.
Exactly.
So and since Hazrat Ali radiyallahu ta'ala an was Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that Ali is Quran and Quran is Ali, and they will both come together on horse with me. So meaning by that, Ali knows Quran, and whatever is written there in Quran is practiced by Ali Ali is radiyallahu ta'ala an. So his faqahat and his balaghat was one of the most, and that is why there was a wisdom behind something that the difficult time he was chosen by the people, and it was the decree of Allah that he comes at the most difficult times when there was lots of fitna going around.
Exactly.
Right.
And so thank you very much for sharing this with us as well.
Right.
And which is why I think this is the perfect example of how we're going to move on to where we were discussing jurisprudence and Islamic
Right.
jurisprudence.
Can I take a lead
Yeah,
here?
sure, why
Sorry,
not,
I'm
why not?
cutting you here. So it is said that the Islamic jurisprudence, the people who work on the Islamic jurisprudence were firstly the Sufis, not the Fuqaha who worked on it initially, right? And Hazrat Ali was the spiritual leader also, as you mentioned that. And of course, he was also the Chief Justice of Hazrat Umar. So I want you to reflect on his spiritual teachings in that sense.
Yeah, so Hazrat Ali radiyallahu ta'ala an, he was not only the Chief Justice, but he was also muslih for the ummah.
Right.
And he coming on the fourth, although there could be some differences of opinion, this is I may be wrong in my understanding, but he actually vetted the khilafah of his three predecessors, and he actually made sure that there's aman in the ummah.
Right.
People wanted that he could have taken the first place, but he actually vetted them, and that is how things got under control after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Hazrat Abu Bakr radiyallahu ta'ala an, similarly Hazrat Umar radiyallahu ta'ala an, and similarly Hazrat Usman had him in his shura. He was reflecting to so many spiritual issues with them, so many even the four salasil of Sufia. One of the silsila goes to Hazrat Ali radiyallahu ta'ala an as well. So you know, even I belong to the same silsila. I also I'm the clan of ulama that I belong to. We also narrate most of our jurisprudence, especially Hanafi school of thought, to Hazrat Ali radiyallahu ta'ala an.
Wow, and that's wonderful as well. But sir, before we kind of speak a little more about the Islamic jurisprudence and the pillars of it as well, you know, I think at this point of time, let's just move on to Awan Sahab and request Awan Sahab for a wonderful Naate Maqbool as well. So Awan Sahab, Bismillah कीजिए, क्या सुनाएंगे आप?
मौजू तो मैं कुछ और लेके आया था, लेकिन अभी यहाँ पे आके हज़रत साहब ने मौला अली सरकार का जिक्र छेड़ दिया, तो क्यों ना अभी वही जिक्र चल रहा था, उसी को चलते जाएं।
जरूर, बिस्मिल्लाह।
सल्लल्लाहु अलैका या रसूल अल्लाह वसल्लम अलैका या हबीब अल्लाह। ज़माने का सहारा है अली मौला, अली मौला। ज़माने का सहारा है अली मौला, अली मौला। के ज़माने का सहारा है अली मौला, अली मौला। नबी को सबसे प्यारा है अली मौला, अली मौला। नबी को सबसे प्यारा है अली मौला, अली मौला। और पुकारूं मैं अली मौला तुझे, क्यों दर्द उठता है। पुकारूं मैं अली मौला तुझे, क्यों दर्द उठता है। खुदा ने खुद पुकारा है अली मौला, अली मौला। खुदा ने खुद पुकारा है अली मौला, अली मौला। और नबी के घर से ऊंचा और कोई घर नहीं जामे। नबी के घर से ऊंचा और कोई घर नहीं जामे। और उस घर का मीनारा है अली मौला, अली मौला। और उस घर का मीनारा है अली मौला, अली मौला।
सुभान अल्लाह। और उस घर का मीनारा है अली मौला, अली मौला। खूबसूरत सर, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया अवान साहब। और now ladies and gentlemen, I think it's about time that we revert back to where we were talking about Islamic jurisprudence as well. So, Sir Sandhu Sahab, obviously, first of all, what we established last Friday was Hadith, and then it was Tazeed and Qisas and Ihsan. Now, let's talk about the 4 pillars of Islamic jurisprudence, and then coming down to what are the prerequisites in terms of knowledge to apply the Islamic jurisprudence and the laws which comes under Islamic jurisprudence.
Yeah, so actually, first we should understand that Islamic jurisprudence, as we mentioned last time, that the purpose of deploying a law or Sharia is actually ihsan, and we discussed it. And in Quran, Allah says that Allah Ta'ala orders us to do adal
Right.
and ihsan.
Right.
Now, what is adal and what is ihsan? First discuss this, and then we'll come on to the jurisprudence.
All right.
Okay. So, adal is, there are 2 sides of a human being. One is the apparent side, and other is the spiritual side or
Right.
the heart. So, adal is when your apparent side equates your heart. Whatever you are thinking over here
Resonates in your
resonates on your face, and whatever is resonating on your face or your tongue, this is adal. And ihsan is whatever is resonating on your face, your heart is actually much better than what you are depicting on your face.
All right.
So and you can see that Allah does not only order for adal but also ihsan, said that you should make decisions that are that not only are like you should do not only do justice, but also you should practice forgiveness.
All right. So can we say that adl is everything other than munafiqat? Can we say that?
Yeah, definitely. Adal eradicates munafiqat.
Yeah.
Rather, and ihsan, actually it is, ulama say ihsan is also a kafiyat when a person actually decides what, as if Allah is watching him directly or he is watching Allah.
Alright.
So when this kind of a kafiyat or this kind of a condition is there, so resonating it back to echoing back to Hazrat Ali radiyallahu ta'ala an, he was a kind of a person who could do that. Because his inside was absolute ihsan over the nation. He controlled the environment when he was there, when he actually got power transferred to him from Hazrat Usman. Now coming to the point of jurisprudence.
Well, very quickly, I have a confusion, a little bit of confusion over here. So adl and ihsan coexist? They should, or
they are in mathematical terms they are one is the superset and other is the subset.
yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, we'll call it umum khusus mutlaq.
So then adl is the umbrella, and then ihsan comes under the umbrella.
Yeah, so adal is aam and ihsan is a very special thing
Specific.
within ihsan.
Alright.
A very
It's
special.
your choice whether you want to do it or not.
Yeah, so adal is matloob and ihsan is mahmud.
And are both of these characteristics obligatory as well, or ihsan is not obligatory?
Ihsan is, in other words, sometimes you can work upon rukhsa. For example, I'll give you an example. If you take revenge from a person who killed your relative, that
Right.
is adal.
Right.
And if you forgive him for diyat, that is ihsan.
Ihsan.
Right.
All right.
Of course. So moving forward our conversation, and I would like to ask you this question, talking of spirituality, and obviously Hazrat Ali was a person who was very spiritual in that nature, and Hazur Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam also pointed out multiple times. So when a person gets a spiritual knowledge, right, so it is said that, if Sufi gets them, that, that makes them quiet, because not everyone is prepared, to have that sort of light in their eyes, and they get blind over that. So, and when the same sort of spiritual knowledge gets to the messengers or the Payghambar, wo khatat ban jate hain, they preach out the lesson of Allah Ta'ala. Do you think spirituality and politics are two different streams in that sense?
In Islam, no.
No.
Islam actually you know, this is the beauty of Islam, that it does not only coexist with the Islamic spirituality does not only coexist with politics, rather it takes over the politics.
Right.
It takes over in the sense that
But politics has seemed to be something, you know, it's this perception that, you know, it can make you somewhat go astray, or, you know, you become greedy in that.
it makes Islamic politics is made go much deeper into how people can do collective decision making.
Right,
This is what Islam did.
Right.
You know, look at the Ma'ashara that had politics before the advent of Islam.
Right.
They were fighting over small things.
Yep.
Right.
But the same Ma'ashara was again doing into politics. They were making decisions, collective decisions,
Yep.
but with akhuwa, with brotherhood.
Right.
You know, the kind of animosity changed into brotherhood.
Right.
So it was so easy to make decisions, and that is because of the spirituality.
Yeah.
Okay.
Of Islam.
And sir, in addition to that, I think what Haja was trying to refer to is that, you know, in these days when we see our political leaders, unfortunately, the language they use or the way they put bohtan onto other people as well, I think that's really not the true example. And when we talk about Khalifatul Waqt, obviously the now Prime Minister of our country happens to be the Khalifatul Waqt for all of us, or not?
No.
No, how does that work? You know, so let's talk about it as well.
Khalifatul Waqt would be a person who is agreed upon by whole of the nation.
Okay.
Muslim
Ummah.
nation, yeah, Ummah.
Right.
So at the moment, no.
So when we vote for somebody to be the Prime Minister, do you think that will work?
If it is done at the international level.
If it is done at the international level. Thank you very much for saying that, and we will still continue to kind of talk about Islamic jurisprudence. But today, we're short on time. Obviously, we really need to kind of talk about Maula Ali, Hazrat Ali alayhi salam as well.
Right.
And yes, I'm happy that we were able to do that, that we got the chance to do that as well. Because unfortunately, we didn't have our transmission on Saturday. I mean, we're going to request our boss if he allows us to kind of do shows on Saturday and Sunday. We will be happy to do that. But
Right.
thank you very much, sir, for being with us, and we'll continue from here as well, because we spoke about Ahsan and Adl. So from here onwards, we'll talk about the 4 pillars and then what kind of prerequisite you require within the field of knowledge to apply all of these laws which are under the Islamic jurisprudence as well. So thank you very much for being with us. Thank you very much, Avansa, for being with us. Lovely to have you over here. And for everybody who's out there, ladies and gentlemen, day in, day out, we make sure to kind of bring you the best of we know. And then we make sure that, you know, that whatever knowledge we share with you has a lot of research at the back of it as well, and that you kind of take advantage of it and make your lives more spiritual and more enlightening as well. So with that, we're actually heading on towards a short break. When you guys will come back, we will be observing World Immunization Week, which happens to be from the 24th till the 30th of this month.
RAMZAN Pakistan, RAMZAN Pakistan.
Third 10 days of Ramadan are days to seek emancipation from hellfire.
اللهم أجرني من النار.
O Allah, save me from the hell's fire.
काम होगा.
Sayings of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He who does not respect elders, does not have mercy on children, does not commend what is good, and does not forbid what is evil, is not one of us.
ए लोगों जो ईमान लाए हो, इताअत करो अल्लाह की और इताअत करो रसूल की और उन लोगों की जो तुम में से साहिब अम्र हों।
कुछ जुल्म थे देखे से एक आग लगी सीने में मिलकर जो बने थे ताकत जब मकसद था जीने में जब पास नजरिया था अपने फिर रोक सका ना कोई यूं पाकिस्तान बना था
रमजान पाकिस्तान रमजान पाकिस्तान
Welcome back. And earlier on, we were talking about spirituality and Hazrat Ali, and now moving towards, this, as Shahzad mentioned earlier on, that this is World Immunization Week, right? So, and of course, earlier on I talked about, how it is so much essential, that we need to invest in a global health security system, and which is a best guarantee against these pandemics, against these diseases like that. Right, Shahzad?
Exactly, and in addition to that, thank you very much for kind of raising importance of this health system we need and we require. And it's certainly because I think just because of COVID, we now know that what kind of efforts really need to be made to make sure that we have healthier people around us as well. But ladies and gentlemen, today I think it's very interesting to today you're going to figure out why do we have those injection marks over here, know. So for all of those newborn babies, when we see them, in summer especially with sleeveless shirts, they have these marks. So obviously for tetanus, hepatitis, polio, and then rubella, measles, there are a lot of other diseases which we wanted to protect our offsprings from. And to do so, obviously, there are a lot of efforts which the government's put in. So make sure, if you're going to go to a public hospital, all of these immunizations are going to be for free. But hey, you know what? If you've been blessed with a lot of more money, you're going to go to a private hospital and you will get one immunization injection for only 28,000 rupees. So it's your choice. We have a facility over here in Islamabad EPI Center where you can go and get them for free. But unfortunately, I think what we really need to kind of talk about is that whether immunization is only important for humans or, the surroundings we coexist with, may it be animals, the flora and the fauna as well.
Right. And the importance has been even made more, I would say, prominent, especially in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, because it was transmitted from the bats to the humans.
Exactly.
Right?
And in addition to that, what we really need to kind of focus on primarily is that imagine that, that people still believed in the stigma attached with the COVID vaccines as well.
Right.
And we had so much of a problem and difficulty where people weren't really ready to get themselves vaccinated, thinking that God forbid something's going to happen to them as well. Imagine, ladies and gentlemen, there are only 2 countries left on this planet where polio still exists. Just very recently, it was in the news that after 15 long months, we actually had a case of polio as well.
Right.
And imagine, it's just because of the fact that that particular child might not have been immunized or vaccinated at his birth as well. And that's what happens. We're playing with people's life. We're playing with the lives of the flora and fauna which actually surrounds us. So without any further ado, we are lucky that we have been joined by the experts over here in the studios. We're very lucky that we have been joined by a clinical microbiologist, and she happens to be Ms. Sabat. Hello, assalamu alaikum, good morning.
Walaikum assalam. Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much for joining us. Wonderful to have you. Did you get your vaccines?
Yeah, surely. A booster dose as well.
All right, and a booster dose as well. Wonderful. I mean, you certainly need to ask this question from somebody who's going to kind of vouch for immunization and vaccination as well. Alongside Ms. Sabat, we're very lucky that we've been actually joined by the surveillance lead, and he happens to be Dr. Usman Zahir Saab. Hello, sir. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for joining us. So first things first, why are vaccines so important?
Okay, so vaccines are some kind of preventive measure rather than a treatment. And it's sort of protecting oneself from having a disease in the first hand. Like prevention is always better than cure. So it's as simple as that. We need to have vaccines to protect us from deadly diseases,
Right.
which can be difficult and dangerous for those people as well who are vulnerable and those who can't be vaccinated in the first place. For example, children, offsprings, and people with cancers and weak immunizations.
Exactly, and you certainly shared this example the way my mother used to share this example कि अगर आपको पता हो बच्चा शरारत करने वाला है पहले उसकी पिटाई कर लो हल्की सी. So it's, vaccine is actually like that, and it has that kind of impact. But how do vaccines work? I think I'm very fascinated to know.
Okay, so vaccines are like our human body is designed to remember something which comes into it, like a foreign body.
The immune system?
The immune system.
Yep.
The immune system recognizes that foreign body and then makes some kind of army of antibodies against that foreign body.
Right.
Vaccines is kind of imitation of that actual disease. It is a weakened or killed virus or bacteria or any microorganism for which the vaccine is being made. It is inserted into our body recognizes it as a foreign body, but it does not give us any disease. And our
So
body,
it's like having a backup.
it's like having a backup of antibodies for when the actual virus or bacteria comes in, we have our army ready to fight back.
Exactly, and that's wonderful. But in addition to that, what I would certainly want to ask is, do you think that vaccines, God forbid, can go wrong as well? Because for a disease which we haven't gotten so far, so the body might not be even aware of the fact that there's this disease which exists in this world, or probably it might be. Body's a wonderful thing. So can there be side effects? Can there be problems, repercussions related to over-vaccination of somebody?
Vaccines are not made for unknown diseases. Vaccines are always made for known diseases, and that particular agent which is causing the disease is weakened or killed and then inserted into our body. Okay, so it's like having a whole mechanism of disease and then counter-attacking it.
Right. Right, and also we would like to move to Dr. Usman. So you primarily deal with the vaccines and with the animals, right? So why is it important to have, your animals vaccinated? And especially, do you think that there is a scope for that in Pakistan? Because I don't think so. We look after our animals as much, especially like the countries in the, if you go to Turkey, for example, they look after the cats, street cats, stray dogs so much. But in Pakistan, what we do is we kill the dogs because, we feel that it's a...
Not everybody does that.
I mean,
it totally depends on the provincial governments on what kind of plan they have.
I mean, there are societies, which are doing that.
That's true.
They're very posh societies who are doing that, and they're saying that it's a nuisance to, human existence, right?
I think this is a very wonderful question regarding vaccinations in animals.
Right.
So I would say this is the era of One Health.
Right.
Where health of humans, animals, and our environment is linked.
Yep.
So it's not possible to have our humans healthy without the health of animals.
Yep.
Right.
So Pakistan is also moving in that direction.
Right.
And for instance, you were talking about cats or dogs and their vaccinations. They can get rabies, which is a virus that causes a disease in those animals, and those animals can then transmit that disease to humans. And when the disease happens in humans, there is a almost 100% fatality. If a person gets rabies, they will die. Okay. So for prevention for rabies is through the vaccination in dogs and cats. So there is concerted effort in the globe as well, in the world, where the United Nations organizations, different organizations are working together with the national governments for the eradication of rabies, and there is a global mandate of eliminating rabies from the world by 2030. And there is a lot of work that needs to be done in Pakistan as well, so that our people are aware as well, because we think it's a fashion to keep a pet, but at the same time it comes with the responsibility to vaccinate our pet as well. So I think we are moving in that direction, but there is a lot more that need to be done.
And in addition to that, thank you very much for kind of highlighting that, because this is another way of putting it. Imagine we are actually vaccinating animals so that we can protect ourselves. How selfish can a human be? But in addition to that, I think what we really need to consider over here is, because as Muslims we do like mutton and beef, all sorts of barbecue, and it's going to be Eid in a couple of days as well. And I know it's Rosa, so I'm not going to talk a lot about food, but vaccination and immunization of the animal is truly dependent on our food safety and security as well. We talk about security, that's different, but safety, yes. So how do you think in those terms do we have the governments working and making sure that for all of that meat we are going to consume is going to be healthier for us rather than disastrous?
This is such an interesting question, and I'm so glad that you brought it up, because the meat that we eat or the products that we take from our animals,
Right.
we are consuming those. But what happens is our animals are prone to several diseases. For
Right.
instance, our cattle and buffaloes are prone to foot and mouth disease. What happens is when an animal gets a foot and mouth disease, or recently there was an outbreak of lumpy skin disease virus. I think it was on air on
Right.
PTV as well, on other channels
Right,
as well.
right, right.
So what happens is animals get those disease, although that disease does not affect the meat quality at all. But what happens is there are secondary infections from other bacteria as well. So our animals get different nodules on their skins, or they get other infections in their body. What happens through those infections? There is chances of contamination of the meat as well.
Okay.
So the meat that we will get then is likely that will not have the foot and mouth disease virus or the lumpy skin disease virus. But if we do not cook our meat properly and our animals are not already protected with foot and mouth disease virus vaccination, or say in an emergency situation lumpy skin disease virus, then there are chances of those infections in animals, and then animals can transmit those infections.
Right.
Again, not foot and mouth disease or lumpy skin. I want to be very clear that those diseases do not cause anything to humans.
Right.
But other diseases through the food safety or food poisoning issues, like we are going for barbecues and iftar parties and whatnot
Right.
these days.
Right.
So we are getting those complaints about food safety or those food poisoning issues.
Right.
So it's very important that we vaccinate our animals against those diseases,
Right.
so that the products that we get from those are safe, and we cook our meat properly so that
Right.
we are all safe. And also, one more thing quickly to add, when we vaccinate our animals, it reduces the chances of them getting the diseases.
Right.
Once they get less diseases, we
Right.
do not need to use antibiotics as well.
All right.
Well, once we use less antibiotics, it is also serving the purpose of government of Pakistan, where we want to reduce antibiotic resistance in the country
Right.
as well.
And that's wonderful, because, ladies and gentlemen, we certainly do not kind of suggest that, the antibiotics needs to be used, because we've done several programs on them as well.
Right.
In addition to that, I need to ask you two things. First of all, obviously, when you talked about foot and mouth disease and the other diseases which are prevalent within animals, so God forbid, do you think that other animals can get it? Number one. Number two, do you remember there was a time when we had bird flu as well? And, that was the time when, unfortunately, the lower segment of the society started to purchase chicken, because otherwise they couldn't afford it. They would cook it and they were like, you know what, hey, we are all healthy. And this is something which we kind of witnessed around Badi Eid as well, where, God forbid, if the animal wasn't doing very well, they would slaughter the animal and then kind of distribute the meat and be just very normal about it. So do you think that, God forbid, if an animal is sick, we slaughter, eat the same animal, that can cause us sickness?
I believe government have placed in a robust system at the slaughterhouses for the inspection of those animals.
Okay.
So usually the animals that we see in our meat shops or at the slaughterhouses, those usually have the stamps from the government that says this is a meat safe for consumption.
Okay.
But another catch is that animal is safe, but we need to do what we need to do at home is we cook them properly as well. If we do not cook them properly at the right temperature,
Right.
we will get the disease. And also, it's
Right.
not only about the meat. We cook the meat, it's fine. It do not have any more bacteria to cause us disease. But what happens is, if we are cutting the salads on the same cutting board where we are cutting our meat, now our salad will have it. So we often get food poisoning from the salad.
Exactly.
So it's a wicked issue. It's not only one part. We have to
Right.
work from different fronts to cater to this.
And the transmission of the disease from one animal to another animal, is that possible as well?
That is purely possible, and because animals live in groups,
Yeah.
so one animal is sick, it transmits to another, and from one flock to another. Just take an example of lumpy skin disease. It was not in Pakistan until this year. What happened is some animals were probably imported,
Right.
which were sick. They brought the disease in. Now disease is in South Punjab. It's in Sindh. So it's spreading across the country just through the travel of animals and the people. So again, it reiterates the need for immunizations in animals so that we protect our food security, because we are a growing population. We need to have more food for our people. To do so, we need to protect our animals through vaccinations and through their care.
Exactly. And I just remember that, since I've always been a keen horse rider as well, so whenever you're supposed to send your horse outside the country or bring in a horse, there are strict SOPs in place, and vaccination cards and immunization cards need to be alongside them as well. But now reverting back to humans, so, God forbid, if we have gotten all sorts of vaccines, do you think that we can still be impacted by that very disease we were vaccinated for probably 10 years ago, or probably, let's talk about COVID. So everybody's got the booster. How long do you think that this
or maybe
booster
the
will work?
hepatitis vaccine, which is already there in the market.
Yes.
Right.
Also the influenza vaccine.
Yep.
Right.
We need to have influenza shot every year.
Okay.
This is because
do you second
mutation.
that we really need to get the influenza vaccine?
Yes.
Because
am
for all of that mucus which goes out of our body, I think it needs to be refreshed, and it's a bodily system, right?
Okay, so it's mostly because of mutation. A virus or a bacteria can undergo any mutation in their genetic material, and which may cause the vaccine to not work against that variant. For example, we need booster shots for influenza, like for every year, because that particular virus tends to change every year, and the vaccines are mostly made from a particular fragment of that virus, or if it's a killed vaccine, a whole virus can be taken. So it's like there are multiple kinds of vaccines. We cannot say that we have to have boosters for every disease, against every disease, and we cannot also say that we do not need boosters for
But we do 100% endorse that everybody needs to get immunized and vaccinated as well.
Surely.
All right.
Surely,
Thank you very much, Ms. Sabah. Thank you very much, Dr. Usman, for being with us. Lovely to be in conversation, and thank you very much for raising awareness that about such an important topic where we do have stigmatized people within the society who do not get themselves vaccinated or get the polio drops because they say that they might not even be able to reproduce kids. I mean, where do you get all of this stuff from? Right?
Of course, and I think I always say that spiritually we're all one, and I think scientifically it has been also proven that we are all one in that sense, because if our animals are not feeling good, then we are also not feeling good, and vice versa is the true. And until next time. Okay,
and in addition to that, you know, ladies and gentlemen, you can always have big muscles, you can move rocks and mountains and whatnot, but this brain over here is the biggest muscle. Please make sure that your words actually kind of have a difference and have a positive impact on people. So please make sure that you do not believe in whatever the person living next door is telling you. Please make sure that you do your own research. That's what we do every single day, and make sure that your life is simpler and easier and healthier as well. Look after yourselves. Thank you very much for tuning into PTV World. Stay tuned and keep on watching Ramzan Pakistan. We will be back tomorrow, inshallah. Allah Hafiz for now. Thank you.
RAMZAN Pakistan, RAMZAN Pakistan.
Third 10 days